Good morning, y'all. Pat Flynn here. Thank you so much for joining me today in episode 118 of the Income Stream. If you're here live with me, say hello in the chat. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. If you're watching the replay, hashtag team replay in the comments, along with any commentary you might have along the way. This is an important show because today we're talking about mental health and mental illness, especially as entrepreneurs or anybody who is working, trying to make money. Maybe you've gotten laid off recently and you're trying to work through that. I've worked myself through that back in 2008 when I got laid off. I want to tell you a little bit more about that story and kind of what was going through my brain, what was helping me and supporting me during that time. And I want to pass that on to you. Or perhaps you are an entrepreneur and you're trying to start something new and you're seeing that you're coming across a number of brick walls. You're starting to feel a little bit down on yourself a little bit and you're not getting much support. Well, we're going to talk about all these things and more today here. Again, day 118 straight going live today. Quaranteam, you're amazing. Thank you for being here today. Especially on Wednesday where we go a half hour earlier to get to a call that I need to get to at 8:30 a.m. Pacific. So I appreciate you, especially those of you who are in early with me today. Let's have some fun. We're in this together. Welcome to the Income Stream.
This is the Income Stream to help you achieve your dream, all while we keep it clean. This is the Income Stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The Income Stream with Pat Flynn.
Good morning, y'all. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. The Swedish car guy, hello. Thanks for being here. So important, says the Romer. Marla saying hello to Cheryl. What's up? Rex saying, hey, it's Pat Flynn. Thank you. Hello, everyone, says Abraham. Let's see. Oof, says Contempo Coding. Play some Roblox, because that's a sound that they make in Roblox. Oof. I know, that's so weird. Sorry. April in the house. Cheryl, Peasant Uprising. We got Erica, Jonathan, Zenny and Vlada, Malini, Consult the Blind Guy, Martin. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Martin Hewlett here, who is in the chat with us today, he has his podcast, he has his brand, this is his specialty, focusing on mental illness and mental health. So if you need additional help, he's one of our community members who can offer support during this time. He has his podcast. This is an important topic, and I just want to say up front that I'm not a clinical psychologist. I am not, a doctorate or have a degree, or this isn't even my profession to talk about mental illness and mental health. However, it is something that I've experienced. Obviously, we all, mental health is not like a thing you have or don't have. We all have it. It's just we want to keep it healthy, right? And so today we're going to be talking about a number of different strategies and tactics, and I'm going to share a number of stories related to keeping yourself happy, right? And I think this is really key because when you are happy and when you're in that kind of mindset, you are more able to create, you're more able to support others, that is your audience and the close ones around you, and you're more able to progress forward in whatever goals that you might have that can then again make you more happy and make you feel more valued and then continue that positive feedback loop. And it's very difficult because there are moments and events that are happening in our lives throughout our entire lives, and especially now with the craziness of the pandemic and a lot of other heavy topics and just news, and it's the election year and it's today's tax day, and it's just like there's so many things going on that it's very easy to see that the glass is half empty versus the glass is half full. Now, this isn't going to be a video where I'm like, hey, all you have to do is look at the bright side of things. I think that sometimes is sort of lying to ourselves, but I would love to share what I do in order to stay on the more positive side. And it involves not just doing things on my own. But I think the most important thing, and this is where I want to start, is the idea of valuing yourself and knowing that you have self-worth and that you have the ability to help others and that you have this amazing talent, you have these experiences no matter where you're at that are worthwhile, that you should be proud of. And that self-criticism, however, especially if you are in business or you're an entrepreneur, is very difficult to deal with, right? You often see those illustrations of, you got the angel on one side of your head and then the devil on the other side. And as entrepreneurs, oftentimes that devil is very, very loud within our heads. And it's very easy to look at that. It's very easy to have what's called confirmation bias, that if something doesn't go the right way, we often look for proof that that is actually the truth. Versus what I try to do sometimes is I catch myself trying to prove that things are bad, or if I'm in stressful situations, I catch myself before I get down into that rabbit hole of just proving that, okay, well, of course I'm bad at this, or I'm not cut out for this. And that self sort of empathy is really important, right? Let me say that again. That self-empathy is absolutely key. Oftentimes we have empathy for other people, our kids, our spouses, and we do so much to help others, our boss, our audience, but we really have to focus on ourselves first, right? The analogy that you may have heard of before is, when you go on the plane, when we get to go on planes again, right? And you sit down and they're going over the instructions of what to do in case of emergencies and such. And they talk about the mask that comes down for oxygen in case cabin pressure decreases. And they always say, put it on yourself first before you put it on somebody else. And the reason you do that is because you need to take care of yourself first, or else you can't take care of anybody else. And in fact, you become a burden on others when you pass out, and you might not be able to help. And so it's really important for us to think about, well, what can we do for ourselves first? This was very difficult for me to do at certain moments of my life. I'm not going to get specific because there are some dark moments of my life that I definitely have gone through, starting, I remember all the way back from high school, and the idea of getting bullied. I was bullied quite a bit. I wasn't 5 feet tall until my senior year of high school. So as a result, I had a lot of other kids and a lot of other people pick on me and make fun of me, and even adults, like even adults who weren't trying to be harmful, but they were, right? And a lot of times, that's tough when a person might say something and doesn't even know that they're hurting you, but it's personal and hurtful for yourself. I remember some teachers, calling me, certain names, or pointing out the fact that I was the smallest kid in the class, and literally every picture, it was so easy to spot me because I was the shortest kid. And I never told anybody that was upsetting to me, but it definitely was. And so every time somebody said something, any small amount of thing about my height, it would just eat at me, right? And so that was very difficult. And the idea of self-empathy and understanding that you have value, that you have something to share, that you are worthwhile, you are absolutely amazing, and there's other people in this world who need you is sort of the first step, if that makes sense. Just did a podcast on focusing on you to help others. Use that exact analogy. It's timeless. Indeed, Tim, indeed. So the idea is, okay, well, what can we do in that analogy? The idea of putting the mask on ourselves first before putting it onto others. Like, what's an example, a real life example for our own self to do that, right? And there's some obvious things, right? Taking care of ourselves physically. And this is a really important thing for mental health. There are studies that show the direct correlation between physical fitness and physical health and your mental fitness and your mental health, right? This is one of the reasons why I absolutely love, and my favorite podcast, in fact, one of the only ones I now subscribe to, because I had to do a big trim of the number of shows that I was listening to. Back when I started listening to podcasts, I think I was listening to like 20 or 30, I was subscribed to that many. But now I'm subscribed to just a few, Amy Porterfield being one of them. But I wanted to point toward Sean Stevenson from the Model Health Show. He recently did a number of episodes about what has been happening lately in the world, and he just has this amazing way of introducing a lot of elements of the physical world and the health and fitness space into what is happening in the world today and how that affects our mental ability and our mental fitness. And there are some obvious things, right? Like the fuel that you put into your body directly relates to your output, right? You are a machine, and the idea of you filling it with gas or energy that just does not have a lot of dense nutrition is going to be very difficult, because oftentimes our brains suffer first before even our physical attributes, right? So again, this is not my expertise, but I'm just sharing you some stories and things along the way. There was a moment in time in about 2014 where I was really struggling. I haven't really told anybody this story before, but I was struggling as an entrepreneur. I was struggling with my physical fitness. I was struggling with a lot of the additional work that I was taking on, and just how burdensome a lot of that was. And although the business was successful, I was still going through days and moments, and it was feeling like a roller coaster of waves of anxiety, waves of unhappiness. And there were a lot of things in my life at the time that we'll talk about as well, that definitely helped supported that. So supported me along the way and got me out of those ruts. But it was definitely something that was happening a lot more regularly. So if you happen to go through days where you are feeling that self-doubt, you're feeling that anxiety, whatever the case may be, whether it's related to business or not, just know that that's something that a lot of us do go through. And there was a specific moment in time where I decided that I was going to eat healthier and sleep better and start to at least get a little bit more regular with my physical fitness. It was tough because I remember in 2009, we had our baby. We had Keone. He's now 10 years old, which is crazy. He turns 11 in December. Holy moly. But it was after that where all focus was on him. Everything was on him. I was not eating well. I was eating anything that was quick and easy, i.e. fast food. I was not working on my physical fitness because I wasn't able to sleep. I was tired all the time, and I wanted to be there to support April, so I wasn't taking care of myself. And as a result of that, I was not doing a lot of great output in my work and in my business, and I was feeling really down. The same thing happened in 2012 and 2013 when my daughter was born. I was all focused on her and very similar patterns. And it was in 2014 when I started to feel very tired, when I started to see and notice that I was getting a lot of anxiety and was just really negative. Like I would wake up and I just was like, oh, what, like another day, like all the hard work that I have to do, like this is terrible. Like I wish things were better. And I was just like in a weird mental space at the time. And there was truly a period where I noticed a immediate result when I started eating better, when I started focusing on my sleep, when I started focusing on my physical fitness. I even hired a coach at the time to help me through that. Jeff is his name, and we're still working together today. And it's not just so I could stay physically fit, but because that physical fitness directly correlates to my mental fitness as well. And as somebody who is trying to be a high performer, somebody who is trying to do more and grow and help more people, I absolutely need this and this to be in tip-top shape. And a lot of the physical fitness and the nutrition and the health-related things do make a direct impact on my mental fitness as well. Also, I just want to say thank you to everybody here who is sharing this time with us. And you are so great in that you are responding and corresponding with other people here who are in the chat. This is what's so amazing about the income stream is the community element of this. And this is sort of the next thing that I want to talk about. The idea of surrounding yourself with really good people, right? Surrounding yourself with really good people. And sometimes for some of us, this is very difficult to do, especially when we are, for example, trying to make money, we're trying to start a new business, we're trying something new. If you don't get support from people around you, it can be very, very difficult to do this, right? And in some cases, it's impossible to get away from that, right? If you have friends and other people in your life that are just negative people who are just trying to put you down, oftentimes they're saying things to you about the things that you're trying to do to more justify their choices in life. I've seen this be a very, very big pattern. Hey Archer, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate you today. And for those of you who are here and you're brand new, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you get more information to help you in your business along the way. So I'm here to help. But there is a lot of cases that I've seen with entrepreneurs who just are having a hard time finding that support system, right? And this is where online communities can play a big role, especially today where all we have is online communities. And the income stream here is an amazing family. And this is a free community, right? You don't have to pay a super chat like Hey Archer did right there in order to be a part of it. This is a free community. These communities exist. There are good people out there. There are premium communities that exist for specific things. Like, for example, today is a great day because we're launching and opening up the doors for SPI Pro, our membership program, where we've gone through an application process and we have a specific kind of entrepreneur who we're hoping to bring into this community so that we can all help each other at a certain level. However, whatever the case may be, Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, other communities online, this connection with other people is absolutely key. And when I first started out in business, this was something that was very, very apparent to me because my business wouldn't have started if it wasn't for the people that I was surrounding myself with. And it can be difficult, especially for introverts like myself, to get involved in groups and get involved with other people. But I want to tell you a quick story because this was an absolute important moment in the history of Pat Flynn and SPI, and I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for, these kinds of situations. And when I first started out in business online, I got really excited and I got really motivated because I heard a lot of other people talk about their success stories. This is why I think podcasts that share success stories about the thing that you're working on is really key. And I invite you to listen to the Smart Passive Income podcast if you haven't done so already, because we share a lot of amazing success stories from people just like you. But there was a specific podcast that I listened to back in the early days, 2008, called Internet Business Mastery. And it was on this podcast, in fact, that I felt like there was some hope for me. The reason why I needed some hope during this time was because I had just recently gotten laid off from my architecture job, and I was feeling very depressed. In fact, I went through about a month-long period the moment after I got let go, just feeling very worried about the future, not really knowing what was going to happen. I had just proposed to April, my now wife, and what were we going to do? We were planning to start a family. We were planning to rent an apartment, and now we were not going to have any money come in. I was just a lot of negative thoughts coming in, and what was providing this beacon of light for me was hearing these success stories. So this is good advice for you as an entrepreneur. If you happen to own your own business or you're going down that direction, share your success stories. Share these stories that you are creating for others, because this is what is very motivating. This is what motivated me when I first started out. I got so motivated, in fact, that I knew I wanted to be a part of this community. So I joined a program called Internet Business Mastery Academy, and I started to find other people who were going through similar situations like me. Maybe not necessarily being laid off, but people who were working hard to change their lives through the businesses that they were creating, whether it was escaping their 9-to-5, or perhaps they got laid off recently, or they were just unhappy and they wanted to move on and try something else on the side. Either way, I found people who were speaking the same language, who were going through the same tough times, who were struggling, not knowing if this was the right path for them, who were just in the weird headspace of, I don't even know if this is right for me. And it was so great to see other people who were going through the same thing, because we were all able to support each other. And in fact, the online community, the membership that I was a part of, the forums, were absolutely key. And there's still people who I'm friends with today as a result of connecting with other people there. And then there was a moment in time when one of the hosts of the show, Jeremy Franson, actually moved to San Diego. He originally lived in Utah, but he was moving to San Diego, and he said, hey, if anybody in the community lives in San Diego, let me know. I'd love to meet up with you. And that was when my heart started racing, because number one, I started to see Jeremy as this celebrity, right? Because he was somebody who I had listened to every single day. He and his partner Jason, the hosts of this show. So I just was like, whoa, there's like a celebrity coming in, and it was weird because he's just a regular person. And when I met him, he was totally a regular person. But to me, because he had a podcast and he was this host, again, another lesson for you as a content creator, your audience is going to see you as a celebrity. Maybe not, Tom Cruise or Tom Holland. I don't know why I'm saying all the Toms, Tom Hanks celebrity, but a celebrity nonetheless, somebody who people can look up to. And that's really important, to find people that you can look up to. Even if you can't make a direct connection with them, that's very key, right? But at the same time, this person, Jeremy, was coming to San Diego, and he had a very specific date in mind where we were all going to meet. And we were going to meet at this Panera Bread, which was just sort of random, but it was crazy because that was just 2 minutes from my home. I don't know why he selected it. I think it was just central San Diego. He was down south, and there was a lot of people up north, and he was like, hey, there's this restaurant I found mid San Diego that we should all meet up at this time, and it was right by my house. So I was like, oh man, so it would behoove me not to go. So I remember driving my Toyota Tacoma, which later got totaled, so just remembering my Tacoma. Anyway, for the children of Yemen, Jonathan, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. I appreciate you. For those of you who don't know, the super chats that are coming in today and this month are going to yemenfoundation.org, specifically the children who are really suffering over there. And I'm just bringing awareness to Yemen and what's happening over there, kind of flying under the radar right now. But Jonathan, thank you so much for that. I went to Panera Bread, and then I almost backed out. I saw a group of people there. I got there a little late because I was a little bit worried. I had all this anxiety. And then what I found out was this group was one of the most welcoming groups I'd ever been a part of. And in fact, it was at that group meeting, after going around each person and sharing, what we were doing, I just had this little blog in the architecture space that was getting some traffic, and they were all super helpful. And there are communities and there are people out there that are helpful, who do want to help. And yes, we see a lot of people who perhaps put a lot of that behind a paywall, but there's a lot of free communities and places that where we can go to where you can find other people who are just like you. And getting that support group, I found, is an absolutely key ingredient, right? And so when I first started out, that was a part of my success story. And then over time, I've continued to try and make sure that I've had support systems and people around me, both in my personal life, and I'm very thankful because April has become a massive support system for me as I've gone along. Somebody who I can speak to and talk to. She's not even in business. She doesn't even have a Twitter account, and she's very private online. But I can talk to her about these things, and she's open to that because even though she might not know or understand all the words I'm saying, she's there and she's able to listen and provide value from her own side of the story. And that's really key. But also support systems within the realms that I'm in, right? I have 2 mastermind groups that I've been a part of for over 8 years each. One of them is with a number of amazing people, Jamie Masters, Todd Trester, Leslie Samuel, Mike Stelzner from social media marketing world, Ray Edwards. We're in this mastermind group and we come together every single week. And in fact, that's the meeting every Wednesday that I have a half hour after the show normally begins, which is why we have to move the show a half hour earlier on Wednesdays specifically. They're like a family to me, and we know each other so well, and we've gone through some tough times, and we have been there for each other, and we've been brutally honest with each other, and those are the kinds of things that we need. So I would encourage you to, in the communities that you are in, try to find people that you vibe with, right? And try to find those who you can perhaps connect with outside of that space to have perhaps even something formalized like a mastermind group or just a buddy system / check-in person who you can connect with and share stories with and lean on each other with. And it's going to take some time to find those people, but I promise you that extra work up front to find people that you vibe with matters so much. And you're going to find best friends through these situations and in these communities. You're going to find some amazing support systems through these situations. And when you surround yourself with good people who can support you, who do understand what you're going through, who are in the same world as you're in, it matters so much. It matters so much. Part of mental health and mental fitness as well is also considering your own personal needs. A lot of times I find, and for a lot of students that I teach, they're so giving and they're so wanting to help others that they forget to help themselves first. And I think, we can talk about a lot of the things that we need to do for our own selves beyond just like, staying mentally fit and having nutrition and getting the right sleep. Sleep, by gosh, is such an important factor in mental fitness as well. And also, physical fitness, those sorts of things. But there's other things that we need to give ourselves too, right? We need to give ourselves space. We need to give ourselves space to focus on other things outside of the things that often, attribute to this stress, right? Outside of work, outside of business, outside of even personal life sometimes. We can focus on our own selves, our own hobbies. I can't tell you how important having a hobby is. And it's so funny because I notice a lot of entrepreneurs, when they start building their own business, actually give up and sacrifice a lot of the things that brought them joy in their lives. And that may be necessary to do for a short period of time as we hustle, as we start out. However, I think it's important to understand that you need to do something that lights you up too. And if you have other people around you who perhaps are going to be affected by your decisions, I think it's important that if you have this need to, go fishing or, play video games or whatever your mental space where you can just escape for a little bit and breathe, that to me is very similar and along the same lines as meditation, right? Meditation, I think, is absolutely important. And I think a lot of people have this sort of skewed vision of what meditation can be. I think a lot of people think it is only sort of sitting quietly for 12 minutes and not being able to have a thought. You're going to have thoughts all the time. It's just the matter of, having a focused thought. And meditation's been absolutely key in my life. And I do it every other day, 3 or 4 times a week. And that's been absolutely key for me. But I think meditation, in a sense, is also the idea of, quieting your mind from the things that are stressing you out, quieting your mind from the things that are keeping you busy, so that you can actually have some space to breathe and then come back into it later, right? So for me, a lot of that is video games and playing games with the kids and being able to sort of escape from the busyness of work and the realities of what's going on right now to be able to enjoy time with them. And that escape is very key. Now, it's important to manage that escape, right? It's important to manage that time. And I think that that's important to look at so that we don't just go avoiding tough situations, because that's the sort of balance here, right? There are, especially when you're trying to make money, stresses in that world, and there's necessities, and we often feel like if we're not working on that, we're taking away from what could be possible, and that's key. But also, again, your mental health, your mental fitness is really important, and focusing on you, the you time, is really key. So I love, Rex, that you shared here your meditation is working out at the gym. I would love to know from you, for those of you in the chat, maybe you can spur some ideas for others in terms of what is your version of meditation? What's your sort of escape time that you allow for yourself? And that's absolutely key. I would offer to you not to feel bad about taking time for yourself to do something like that, right? I think that's absolutely key. One sort of personal thing that I want to share with you is, and I know this isn't just, my wife, April. I know this is a lot of moms feel this way, right? With how busy times are at home. And April, she's a stay-at-home mom. She's with the kids 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. She gets no recognition for it. She doesn't get paid for it. She doesn't get likes for it. She doesn't post that on social. And I'm not bashing anybody who does, but as a result of just the hard work that she puts into the family, she often gives herself a lot of time, which I absolutely love, and I encourage, to just be alone in the bedroom, right? Where we just know as a family, hey, this is mommy time, gives her space, watching the Hallmark Channel or whatever she wants to do in there. That's her time, right? Because especially now in moments like this, there is no other place that we could go, right? And just some alone time in the bedroom to just escape for a little bit is absolutely necessary. And I need to know, as the other person on the other side, her husband, that I need to support her with that. And I would be so terrible of a person if I would say, how could you just spend an hour in the room by yourself doing nothing, like you're not providing any value, right? And on the surface, that might be what it might look like, right? Hey, Pat, how could you play video games with your kids and just not do the work and not be involved? Like, there are people in this world who need help from you, and you're just, escaping into Fortnite or Minecraft. Like, what the heck are you doing? You're 37 years old. What are you doing? I'm recharging. That is what I'm doing. And we all have our different ways of recharging. So let's see what you're doing. Meditation for me, Bernard says, reading books, taking a walk, cycling, inspecting my pot plants. I recently adopted Wim Hof method of breathing. Wow, amazing stuff, Pat. Yeah, Jay, Wim Hof is fantastic. This is one of those sort of unknown secrets of the world, is these breathing strategies. And if you're in the shower, taking a cold shower, and you hold your breath for 30 seconds and expel all of your air, and you start to feel that tingle. These are, am I in the right realm, Jay? Let me know. But I think I've read a little bit of Wim Hof stuff, and that stuff is incredible. I'm also building memories with my kids, says Rhino. Yeah, for sure. I bought a $350 Coleman hot tub for the yard quarantine. That's my jam right there to meditate, right? This is absolutely key. Breathing is huge. Such a great stress relief. Yeah, there was a book. Hold on a sec. There's a book that I read that was very, very good about breathing. And this is what it's called here. It's called The Oxygen Advantage. Since we're talking about this is seemingly very random here on the chat today, but we're talking about different ways to focus on you, right? And the escape that you offer yourself so that you can come back to the thing with more energy, so you can come back to the thing, even though it might be stressful, whatever the thing might be, with at least some space around it. When it just consumes our life, it consumes our body. When it consumes our life, it consumes our mind. And we're unable to support or help anybody else if we continue to stay sort of within that realm, if that makes sense. Karma, no worries. Wednesdays, we're just a half hour early, as you know. But hey, you're here. Thank you. That's awesome about Fortnite. I was never a gamer until quarantine. My son and I play together. It's awesome. Yeah, it's fun. We're sort of documenting that journey on Twitch. We are actually getting quite serious about it in the idea of sort of having a regular schedule. We hired a designer to help us manage our Twitch page, and we're going to have some really cool animations and some caricatures of the family, and we're just trying to make it fun, right? Taking care of plants is mostly relaxing. Yes, this is awesome. So these are great things. These are absolutely things. For others, it's playing music. For some, it's just sitting quiet by the lake, and others, it's a run. Whatever your stress reliever slash escape slash just breathing space is for you, you need to find your own version of that. If you haven't done that for yourself yet, you're also not best serving others too, if that makes sense. I pray, and I sometimes change the words of the prayers I learned young. I love that too. Whatever it is for you, we need that, right? We absolutely need that. Another thing related to mental health that I think is really key is the idea of goal setting, right? And we as entrepreneurs or anybody who's trying to make money, we have specific goals, hopefully, in mind. I think goals are important because that becomes our North Star, that becomes our direction for where we want to go. But too often I see this, and I do this myself. I'm very ambitious. I am a visionary. And as a result, I have big visions, much like you do, and big goals. But there's so many steps involved. There are a lot of steps weighing down on the possibilities of this thing happening, right? We have this amazing way of just humans, of getting excited about things, thinking about what if this works? What if this is the most amazing thing in the world? What if this is the game changer? But then those what ifs, as we dig deeper into it, and as we start to do some work or even just research, those what ifs transition to, well, what if this doesn't work? What if this is a waste of my time? What if this is something that actually hurts me more than helps me? And that mind game that we play with ourselves is absolutely key. There is a book I would highly recommend. It's not suitable for kids, so if you happen to play the audiobook out loud, just know that there's some swear words in there. But this book is called The War of Art. The War of Art. Not The Art of War by Sun Tzu, but it's The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. And this book is absolutely amazing because it allows us to understand that these feelings that we have, this anxiety related to these goals, are normal. And in fact, the bigger your goals, as Steven Pressfield says, these goals that we create for ourselves, they're like trees, right? And the bigger the goal, the bigger the tree. But the bigger the tree, the bigger the shadow that comes along with it. And it's that shadow that takes its form in this of self-doubt, of procrastination, of self-sabotage. These sorts of things come about as a result of these bigger goals that we have. However, what I love about this book is it reframes that self-doubt into the idea that that is your North Star. That is, in fact, the thing related to your goal, that nervousness, that is actually the direction you want to go down, because there's always something going to be amazing on the other end. If you are always sitting in comfort zones, you are not growing. If you are only creating goals that were easy for you, then you're not actually taking bold enough actions and setting big enough goals, right? And this is why in my business now, I always look toward, okay, well, where am I going to be the next, where's my next nervous moments? Where are the next sort of challenges for me? If I were to just stick with the things that I am already doing and I'm good at, then I'm not growing or helping as many people as I can. So I look for these things, right? This idea of being nervous about something and having that anxiety. Did you know that the same part of your brain fires up when you're fearful and nervous about something as when you are excited, right? So it's really the same parts of our brain that are firing up. It's the story that we tell ourselves about the things that are in front of us. It's the story that we tell ourselves, right? So when I got laid off in 2008, the story was I wasn't good enough. My fiance didn't sign up for this. What is she going to do? My parents didn't pay my way through college to be an entrepreneur. They paid my way through college to be an architect. I never went to business school, right? These stories that I was telling myself was confirming why this was not going to work for me. And if I tell myself these stories, then that's the reality that's going to happen. Our thoughts turn into realities, right? And so it was when I started to change the story from what was me to why me to why not me? What about this new opportunity? That's when things finally started to shift. Because even though I was still uncomfortable, even though I was still nervous, I was excited about the possibilities and what was to come. You're the best. I'm learning so much. Who was that? That was Connie. Connie, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate you. You're amazing. I love what Flyride here is saying. I feel like my goals are the little ledges I bounce off of as I'm endless free falling through the journey. I love that. Anything Cameron says, sorry I'm late, Pat. I hope to catch your stream tomorrow. Also because after that, I leave for Iron Hacks. I can't pronounce that. Anyway, that's so cool. Yeah, hope to catch you tomorrow too. So this is absolutely key. The idea of, as you are creating goals, this is a strategy, like the legit strategy I use when I'm creating goals or I have projects, right? And in fact, I used to do this with physical folders. We have an upcoming productivity workshop actually where I'm going to teach more about this, but every project that I work on, essentially imagine a real life physical folder, like boom, one folder, right? And that's the name of the project. So for a while it was, Smart Passive Income courses, or maybe it's the podcast, or whatever the next big project is that you're focusing on. Imagine a physical, like manila folder. Within that folder, you open it, and there's a notepad with all the steps from one to the last, or A to Z, on all the things that are required, right? If we just look at that, we can often get very overwhelmed. But here's also where the other overwhelm comes in for us entrepreneurs or people who are balancing so many things. We have 10 folders open at the same time. How in the world are we able to prioritize and balance things when we have multiple things open at the same time? This is why I love this analogy of physical folders, because it's like, okay, here's the pile of folders, i.e. ideas, i.e. projects, i.e. things that I need to work on, right? And I can only open one folder at a time. Within that one folder, there's a number of different steps. And now I can just look at where I left off, right? So I actually, in fact, used to create physical folders with projects. Like, for example, an iPhone app that I wanted to create. I had an iPhone app folder. I'd open it up. I'd have all the steps from the idea to execution to marketing the iPhone apps. And where did I get this information about what to put in there? I asked around, or I found that information, or I joined a course to kind of help me determine what those steps are. But this physical folder idea allowed me to only focus on one thing at a time. The way that I got multiple things done at a time was I focused on one folder until I got to the point where either I was waiting on somebody else or it was done or what have you, so that I can close that folder, put it away, and open up another one, right? And now I can pick up where I left off. And now I remember where I left off because I had a folder, if that makes sense. Jonathan says, I have 27 folders and 43 messy folders in each folder, right? This is us. This is the story that we all have, right? And then this becomes a challenge. This becomes the idea of these little tasks within that bigger goal. That becomes how you get out of that, how you get out of that mental block, how you get out of just feeling stuck, right? Finding the next thing that you're working on and focusing on that, learning about that, i.e. just-in-time learning, and asking questions and getting help about that next thing. And that's how we progress forward. Because although these big project folders or these big lights, as we call them at the end of the tunnel, are there and they're very distant and very faint often at the beginning, that's how we move that light to just the next step. And that becomes a lot more achievable. And a really important part of mental health, especially as an entrepreneur and as somebody trying to make money, is celebration. We need to celebrate the small wins that we have. This is absolutely key that I found, because it is psychologically, and again, I'm not a psychologist or licensed or anything. This is just my opinion, what I've learned over time. But when we celebrate and feel grateful for the work that we've done, we're more likely to move on to the next step and start to get addicted essentially to these small wins, so that these small wins can begin to stack on each other, right? It's that reptilian side of our brain where we're essentially rewarding ourselves with feeling grateful and unlocking the sort of next step. So what do? We continue to keep going and unlock that next step. And it's that combined with the support system that you have around you, combined with staying physically and nutritionally on top of things and getting the right amount of sleep, that all sort of combine to having progress happen. And of course, that support system around you and surrounding yourself with people who are going to be there to continue to help you along the way. And also read the label outside the bottle, because oftentimes when we as entrepreneurs work, we're so enveloped in our work, we're so just deep into it that we don't have that ability to see what it's like from the outside. And this is why your mastermind groups or being involved in other communities where you can get feedback, where you can have people be honest with you, is absolutely key, because too often we progress and we get addicted to these small wins and this progress that we're making in our business, that oftentimes we'll start to say yes to everything, right? we start to say yes to all the things. We start to want to do even more. And as a result, we get to that point where something has to give at some point, right? And that could be often our sleep or our food intake or our relationships. When we don't focus on reassessing where we're at and what's actually important and what the next steps are, we start saying yes to too many things and we start to say no to other things that are actually important. And a lot of times it's the stuff outside of our business that actually starts to bend and break first before our business does. And so it's really key that we understand, what are we saying yes to and what are we saying no to, right? What are we saying yes to and what are we saying no to? Because when you say yes to something, you're also saying no to something else, right? But you've said yes to a bunch of things before. We have to say yes and stick with those things. But when we start getting excited, when we start providing, some small wins and we start to get addicted to that, well, it's a balancing act, right? It's an absolute balancing act. Xenia and Vlada saying, oh, I did that, never going to sacrifice sleep and stuff like that. Again, it's hard though, right? Because we see people, and I'm not gonna bash them, but I'm just saying, people like Gary Vee, who have definitely supported this sort of hustle culture, right? That we have, sacrifice sleep. And he's even saying, and I cringe every time I see, and he doesn't say this as much anymore, but back in the day, he used to be like, hey, well, now's the time for you to work overtime. You're young, right? He says that a lot to young people, especially. You're young. This is your time to sacrifice things so that you can actually have more success down the road. And I agree to some extent, but especially when it comes to health, especially when it comes to mental health and fitness, certain things we shouldn't sacrifice. And hustle culture has just led to a lot of people getting burned out. And especially when we compare like what he does versus what we are capable of doing, we often feel, oh, well, we're not good enough, or we're not able to do it, or we're just not cut out for it, right? So it's difficult sometimes to manage that, especially when we start to hear a lot of other people share what has helped them. And I will say, I feel like I helped contribute to that a little bit back in the 2013, 2014 days when I was sacrificing sleep, when I was sacrificing my own, joyfulness and my own happiness for helping other people. And I think a lot of people saw that, but eventually get to the point where I just was starting to wake up angry. I was starting to sort of have confirmation bias to just, get down on myself. And I wasn't actually being grateful for the things that I did have. And I wasn't actually paying attention to how I was until it was almost too late. And so Grandma Goody here saying, this is reassuring, especially since I had to step back the past few weeks and missed making Grandma Goody videos this week for the first time. And that's okay. It's okay. I think we have to give ourselves forgiveness. We have to forgive ourselves. I think that's another important part of mental fitness and mental awareness, is just being able to forgive ourselves. Yoga Love says, health is number one. If health is not in a good state, then one's ability to serve others diminishes. Yes, that's sort of been a theme today for sure. Bernard says, there's a fine difference between being young and being abused to work overtime. For sure. So this hustle culture, we have to realize that, and I've been trying to find the right words for it, but I haven't nailed it yet. I want it to be something that I can sort of essentially own, that allows me to better express the idea of just not anti-hustle, because I think hustle is important, and there are moments and times where we do need to, work hard and do more than we're normally doing to be able to launch something, to create something, and what have you. But I think just as important is we need to balance that out with having space for ourselves, being grateful, and also taking time and also sacrificing, right? And, I've people who are like, oh, well, just like this was like a talking point for Gary Vee a while back. He's like, stop watching Lost, right? Stop watching Lost and start focusing on your business. And I get where he's coming from. Like a lot of us use movies and games and stuff as in fact replacements for time when we should be working, right? So there's a balance there. Like I said, it's similar to how people who are in the personal finance space are like, no cappuccinos, no lattes. Don't go over to Starbucks and buy that $4 latte, because you can save that money and it compounds over time. And then by the time you retire, you'll have lost out on hundreds of thousands of dollars just because of the coffee that you want. And I get that, but I love the stance that Ramit Sethi takes in that realm, which is more, go have your latte. If that makes you happy, if that's what you feel like you need in order to have a rich life, like, do it. But I want you to focus on the bigger wins to make more money. right? I'm going to help you get a raise in your job. I'm going to help you start your own business and start to make some side income, right? Those are the bigger wins that he focuses on, and that's how I feel life should be. It's not about sacrificing those small things that you actually love doing, but it's more about spending some moments of time to really grind it out for a little bit so that you can get that time back later and then have the luxuries and the other things that you might like. I hate being made guilty for relaxing. Let the mother go out to play. Charlotte Mason. Wow. What a powerful quote there. Perfection is a myth. Yes, this is great. That's absolutely true. I think that especially for people like myself, and I know some of you may be in this realm as well, perfectionism is tough. That is a mental game we play with ourselves, and that can often have us feel, even though we're making progress, even though we're doing well, it can have us feeling like we're not good enough, right? And we start to look for confirmation that what we're doing is bad because it's not a certain way, and we start comparing ourselves. And I talked about this the other day. I think I talked about this on Monday when it came to sort of the dark side of entrepreneurship and certain traps that we could fall into. One big trap, which definitely relates to mental health, is the comparison trap. Us comparing ourselves to others and going, hey, they have this, but I don't have that. Or they have gotten these results, why haven't I gotten these results? They started later than I did, yet they are more successful than I am. It's very easy to fall into that trap because what we're doing is we're finding those things that we can compare, even though we can't compare them. Meaning, you're comparing, for example, the amount of money that they're making with the amount of money that you're making, or the success in terms of the number of subscribers or followers that they have, or views, or what have you, to the amount of followers or subscribers or views that perhaps you have. And those are one-to-one things that we can compare. But we don't look at the full picture. We don't look at, well, what did they do to get there, or what special circumstances, or how were they raised with money, and or just there's so many things to unpack there. And that comparison game can be very dangerous because we start to feel bad. We start to put ourselves under somebody else. We start to look for ways to also confirm that perhaps we're not as good as another person, right? When in fact, we've just had a completely different story. And we're just finding those things that we can compare because it's human to compare things, right? It's human to find patterns, and that's what we do. But when we do this related to ourself and the work that we're doing and our self-worth, it's a very dangerous game that we play. Here is what I recommend, and I mentioned this on Monday, what we should compare. We should compare ourselves to ourselves yesterday. We should compare ourselves to ourselves last week, to last year. That progress makes sense because that's the same person. There's just different things that perhaps we can or cannot do, start or stop doing to get better. And get better in whatever way you choose to want to get better, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you need to make more money. And even if you're making less money, it doesn't mean that you're failing, right? There's a whole set of circumstances. In fact, there were certain, in fact, last year, for example, in the business, I overall had less profit last year than I did the year before. But this was an investment year, and I invested in team. I invested in more time to myself. And this is when SPI Media sort of branched out from Flynn Industries, two companies I still own, but Flynn Industries being more the FlynnCon/books/ SPI Accelerator stuff that involves me, SPI Media being very much the production of the podcasts and the courses and whatnot. I'm very obviously still involved in those too. But all I'm saying is over time, I've just realized that although we made less money last year overall, I was never happier. And I was never happier because I now have this amazing team who's helped to support a lot of the things and to be able to amplify a lot of things that we're doing. Anyway, just kind of getting a little off topic here. But I hope this is making sense. I know that today was very much a very sort of up here related conversation. Yesterday was very much a down here mind mapping situation. And I like to flip flop and go back and forth because I think that there are a lot of things that we talk about here that are seemingly more general, but are obviously very, very key to our growth, such that these tactics and strategies, they don't even matter until this stuff is taken care of or this stuff is being focused on, right? So I think that as we go along in the income stream, there's going to be more topics that are similar. This is something that doesn't get taken care of in one video or one live stream. This is something that requires upkeep. This is something that requires, and I love that the community here is together and are able to support each other too. We've had people create groups outside of people who have found each other here, masterminds and even partnerships. And I love that. I absolutely love that. My role here is sort of as the leader is to facilitate and provide these moments that you can have with each other. And this is not about me. This is about you. I just happen to be the team captain. That's why it's Team Flynn, right? Team Flynn for the win, y'all. I'm just the team captain, but I'm going to pass you the ball every once in a while, and you're going to score, but we're all going to feel and celebrate that win together. We're all going to lose together. This is why we're here as a community, and I'm very, very thankful for you. And then the final thing I want to share is this idea of gratefulness, right? I think that this has become very popular over the last number of years. I first heard it from Tony Robbins and Tim Ferriss and sort of really high performers, and it sort of has trickled down recently into just the daily practice for all of us that I think we should do, which is gratefulness, right? Starting the day thinking about what you are grateful for, right? And in moments like this during the pandemic, definitely going, okay, well, what does this make possible? And what do I do have access to that we can focus on versus what I don't have access to? And it just sets the tone for the day. It just sets the tone for the day. Love audio production. Hi, Pat. Paul here. First-time visitor. Great advice. Thank you. Love audio production. I appreciate you. Paul, you're amazing. Thanks for being here. Make sure you hit subscribe. Every day we do this. We come together as a community. We talk about a lot of different things. Tomorrow we're going to talk about something a little bit more strategy-based, if you want to call it that, for your business. So make sure you come back tomorrow. But again, like I said earlier, I like to flip-flop between the mindset part of this, because that's a very important, if not more important, than the strategies that we unlock. But that gratefulness practice every day is absolutely key, because that sets the tone. And even though you might have a not so great day, you can at least have some things that you are grateful for, right? This is why, have you ever had one of those days where you get up and maybe you just get up on the wrong side of the bed? And that's an analogy, but you know what I mean? It's like things just start off bad. Maybe you're late for work, or you get up late and something happens, or you get up because there was just a leak and then now the floor is flooded, or what have you. Sherry, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate you so much. And what happens when we live each day and we start noticing these things that are happening. Sherry, thank you so much for the super chat. We start to then find other, this is a very, very real thing that happens, at least in my life. Maybe it happens in yours too, right? But maybe I wake up and just something happens. Maybe I wake up and there's an email and like something was broken and other people are affected by it. And I just start feeling bad about that and I want to fix that. And then I'm not even able to start my day in the normal way because there's stuff going on. And then another thing happens, right? Maybe I stub my toe and I go, oh, this is one of those days. It's going to be one of those bad days, right? So I just got to live with today. Maybe I can get to tomorrow. But I think it's in those moments where we start thinking about, oh, well, today's going to be a bad day. When we decide that that's the case, we start looking for other things that confirm, yep, I knew it. Today was going to be a bad day. Maybe maybe like what happens is, you'll squirt mayonnaise on your bread for your sandwich, and you squeeze it too hard and mayonnaise gets everywhere. And on a normal day, that wouldn't be a problem. You would just wipe it up and go. But because it's a bad day that we've defined, we just go, yep, see, another thing that proves that this is a bad day. And when you live in that bad day mental space, you start almost not seeing the great things that are happening around you. And as a result of that, you start to get into this deeper hole. And I find that, sometimes when I have a bad day and I choose to focus on the badness of that day, I'll often have another bad day, like 3 or 4 in a row, right? Versus you can, in those moments, change the story from, oh, that's terrible that happened, but at least I'm eating a sandwich right now. And this sandwich is great, right? Oh, I stubbed my toe and that's not cool. But hey, at least I am able to now go down the stairs, and after putting on a Band-Aid, I can hang out and spend time with my kids, right? So it's just this idea of, in those moments where you start to get down on yourself, you start to go down that lane. Like let's step back a little bit, let's zoom out and go, okay, well, what do we have access to? What are we grateful for? And that gratefulness practice again becomes a habit. And these habits that you create yourself, these positive habits, become the strategy for growth over time. It's talked about in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, this idea of sort of small things. Karma, thank you so much for the $5, my friend. I appreciate you. And thank you so much for being a part of the stream with me and my kids yesterday. That was really cool to see you in there. But yeah, when you start to make this a habit and you wake up every day thinking about 2 or 3 things that you're grateful for, it could be something that maybe happened in your business, or it could be just the fact that you have this air to breathe. It doesn't really matter. It's that focus of things that you can be grateful for that then allows you to have the opposite of that bad day. You start confirming those things that you were grateful for. You start finding other things that you can be grateful for. And it just has us in a more positive mood. And of course, the more positive we behave, the more positive our output. And it's not always going to be a 1-for-1, but the big idea being that we need to stay as much as possible in that positive mental space through the strategies that we talked about today, finding supportive people around you, focusing on your sleep and your nutrition and your physical fitness, the idea of quieting yourself, quieting your mind, having a place to escape so that you can come back and confirming and having conversations with people around you so that you can make that happen. And then, giving something like that for somebody else too is really key. Rafal, thank you so much for the super chat. You're amazing. Sorry, I'm just reading some chat here from Vanessa. Vanessa, thank you so much for the kind words. Real deal. Yep, I appreciate you, April, and everybody. You're amazing. We are 118 days into this, y'all, and I have a call with my mastermind group and my support group in about 2 minutes here. And in fact, I'm in the hot seat today, which is really cool. And every week, one person in the mastermind group, there's 6 of us, is in the hot seat, and we spend time talking about what we're going through, what we're dealing with, where we might have some anxieties. And I rely on this group to help me through that mentally, and they rely on me as well. And this is the beauty of finding people. And where did I find these people? In groups just like this, in conferences that I've been to in person, in communities that I've been involved in online. And I'd recommend that you try to do the same thing yourself too. So, hey, y'all, this is... Michael says, if my charity wants to give to your Yemen cause, where can we donate? I mean, honestly, this isn't about me. So thank you, Michael. This is about the children in Yemen right now, yemenfoundation.org. If you want to leave a donation, for example, on my behalf, that's totally cool. However, it's not about me. Keep it anonymous if you want. I will be sharing how much we've put together, and my family and I will be contributing as well by the end of the month. But yemenfoundation.org is who we are donating to this month. And yes. Whew. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for, and I got to be honest with you, this conversation was just as useful for me as it was hopefully for you too. It's really great to have this community here. Quaranteam, you are incredible. Thank you so much for showing up each day. And if you're brand new here, I hope that you will come back. You don't have to come back every day, but I would love to have you in here as this community continues to grow. And we just seem to attract the most amazing supportive people. And I just want to encourage you today and stay positive. And as we finish up here, I want you to think about the one thing that you're grateful for. In fact, if you have the opportunity before you go, leave that in the chat, and I'll read those later. And I'm here for you, and thank you for being here for me. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. This is the link to remember, patflynn.com/theincome all one word. We're going to start at a regular time tomorrow, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. And I look forward to supporting you. We're going to get into something a little bit more business/tangible tomorrow. Not that this wasn't tangible, but this is up here. And none of the strategies, none of the tactics matter until this is taken care of. And that's for you. So anyway, take care. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And as always, Team Flynn for the win. Peace out, y'all.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream, all while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
You are amazing. You are beautiful. You are valuable. You belong. You have value. The world needs you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you.
Bruh.